Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cheeseman Podcast YouTube show. This is not the caller. This is Brendan. It's caller's mother's birthday, so happy birthday to Mummy Caller first of all. Some great guests with me tonight to look ahead to the Leicester game and talk all things Spurs. Running around the room. First up is HT. How you doing, mate?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm good. I didn't realise that was the reason caller wasn't with us. So hello, mother caller. Thanks for that. No, it's good to be here. And even though Spurs have had a couple of dodgy weeks, I'm feeling good after last night's win for Frankfurt at least.
Yeah, man, we'll get into that. You must have been over the like. First off, it's beating the Hammers, but then is your German team as well? Brilliant.
Yeah. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, Carlsberg don't do Thursday nights. Steve Diver, how are you doing, sir?
I'm just grand, but I'm somewhere in between happy and nervous because I can never be quite happy on a Friday night before Spurs play on the weekend. But I'm good. I am good. Been a good week.
It's been a very good week. We've seen your pictures from the training ground, so we'll certainly get into that whilst we're doing the show today. Also joining is JP. JP, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello.
Oh. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Lovely to be on as ever. Hope everyone else is doing well. It's been a nice Friday so far, actually. It's been reasonably sunny for portions of the day, so went to the pub, feeling good.
Top stuff. Yeah, I'm 4 hours behind you, but I am going to crack open a beer now as well. As always, super chats are live, so do think about sending one in. If you're new to the channel, do think about subscribing as well. Really does help us. And I think that's all the admin, isn't it? There's more. Is there more? Is it stickers? Stickers, get on your stickers as well. That's everything, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah. One more thing, Brendan. One more thing.
Yeah.
That's not JP. His name is James.
Yeah.
Oh, it's James.
JP.
Yes.
I thought the J from JP was for James.
No, JP's an Aussie.
No.
So almost the same.
Yeah. Okay, that's what confused me then, because I was told JP's on. Sorry, James.
It's okay. I forgive you.
Yeah, you're looking very cool there, wearing your sunglasses at night. Very, very Bono.
I don't know who that is, so the reference is lost on me.
Oh God, to make us feel old, Jesus. Right, so tonight we are looking ahead to the game on Sunday against Leicester. I'm going to turn off my WhatsApp so it doesn't keep pinging. They played last night as well. But first up, let's talk about Spurs. It's the game is at 2 p.m. on Sunday. So no from myself, HG. Steve, you're going to be there, I assume?
Yep, I'll be there. I'm not a big fan of those kickoffs because they're a bit early for us because we have to leave quite early in the morning. But yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah. And James, you going to this one?
Football? No. I will be enjoying it in my room, possibly with a cup of tea or a coffee because I might have only just woken up because I don't work on Sundays. I keep the Sabbath holy. So I'll probably be either in bed watching it, which is lovely, or I'll be in my chair watching it. Either way, won't be leaving my room.
Yeah, I love that you're a student as well. So yeah, 2 p.m. is about right for waking up, isn't it?
Perfect time to wake up, have an espresso, put Spurs on. The misery starts,
Yeah. Well, let's look at the team news. We heard this week Skippy is out for the rest of the season, having had an operation in the States. HG, I guess we can't judge our medical team too much. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It just doesn't look good that they waited this long, and then now they've decided to operate when they could have done it a month ago at least, and maybe he would be back for the tail end of the season. What's your feelings on the Skippy situation?
It's funny. I asked this very question on Twitter during the week, kind of like, why is it always that it seems to be that you're given the option between waiting and an operation, we always wait and end up having to do the operation anyway. And I got told quite bluntly by someone on Twitter that I'm one of those guys who thinks he knows everything about everything. And I was like, I asked a question, like, what the heck? It's odd, like, because Skippy's injury happened before the end of the window. So, now you're sitting there thinking that we've got three central midfielders one of which none of us really rate, one of which isn't particularly liked by the fan base as it is right now anyway, and Bentancur, who, is still pretty new at the club. So it's not a great situation to be in, and I suppose we're lucky that it hasn't affected us more, and we haven't had more issues in that area, because we easily could have done, since we've had the same starting pair in midfield for 4 or 5 games now. So yeah, it's not good, but I suppose if the problem gets sorted, then Skippy will be ready for the start of the next season, which is going to start early. So it's good to get it out of the way, but you do think, if only we'd have known. I suppose that's life, isn't it? It's all the value of hindsight. But this is hope that Skippy gets back to normal and be the player that we saw in the first half of the season.
It was a bit of an eventful week for him, Steve, with him signing the contract extension, which was great news, and suddenly he's whisked off to the US for an operation. Do you think? What's your thoughts on Skippy? But do you think that perhaps we should have, in hindsight, maybe held on to Lo Celso, or because we do look quite light, as HG said, in that midfield. One injury, and we're back with Winks.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we are light. You can't argue about it. Celso, he wasn't great for us, but he seems to be playing okay now, and obviously had some moments where he looked decent, and he is Calder's going to be chilling here. He is a better player than Winks, so having him on the bench over Winks, I'd much prefer. So it would have been nice to keep hold of him, but at the same time, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes in the club. We don't know what deals were done, and he didn't look particularly happy with us. So I don't know how many good performances he would have put in from the bench. The whole Skip thing was very odd, wasn't it? Because there's a whole kind of Twitter rumor mill starting because the club said nothing about Skip. Because normally when a player's out, it's going to be back in 4 weeks or 6 weeks, and there's a good timetable on it. But Skip was completely silent. So you have to wonder what's actually going on behind the scenes there. It was an odd one. But to answer your question, I do somewhat wish we kept Giobs. I think he would have been a good backup for the bench.
Mm-hmm. James, what are your thoughts on the situation with the injuries? So we've got Doherty's out as well, Tanganga's out, Skip, as we know, is out now. So do you think that we'll see any surprises from Conte in the lineup, or do you think that the team does pick itself, bearing in mind the shortages we have in certain areas?
Unless he decides to experiment with like Lucas or Bergwijn as a right wing back, it's going to be basically the same lineup as last week, right? We don't really have many options. I mean, he won't drop Kulusevski, Son, or Kane as much as we might, think it seems static. He won't do that because those are the players he trusts, right? You look at midfield. What's he going to do? Play Harry Winks? Probably not, is he? I mean, the one thing about keeping Lo Celso, what it would have done was it would have given us an option, because all our midfielders are very similar. Even Skip, Bentancur, Højbjerg, they're all a very similar kind of player in what they do. They're all very defensively minded, which is fine, right? If you have very productive fullbacks, which we don't. Whereas at least Lo Celso has some attacking prowess in the sense that he can dribble forward. His passing's a bit more progressive than anyone else, so that's the one thing he would have done. But if he wasn't happy and he wasn't going to get minutes under Conte, then fair enough, let him go. The whole Skip thing, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, right? Unfortunately, so I don't know if it was a case of they wanted to see if it would get better, and this is them just biting the bullet and saying, okay, it's not going to. We'll send you off to America to get it fixed properly, hopefully, for once for next season. But that does seem odd. But yeah, realistically, I think it'll probably be the same lineup as last week, unless Conte has gone so annoyed at Royal that he thinks I'll play someone like Lamora as a wing back. But I would be exceedingly surprised and happy, I will say, if that happens.
I think we've seen that with the loss of Doherty, that Kulusevski's form's fallen off a cliff, because he was starting to build up a bit of a relationship there with Doherty. He gets knackered against Aston Villa, and Kulusevski's been really, really quiet. Do you think that's had an impact, HG?
Absolutely. I mean, you've got to get the ball to the front three, and the way to do that is to have fullbacks who are willing to make runs and passes in midfield that can find those players. And for whatever reason, we haven't really had it. And so, like, even though Doherty spent a game and a bit playing on the left, we still had people who were willing to do that. Obviously, a lot of us in the cheese room were at the Newcastle game where it was Royal on one side and I think Doherty played left back that day. So Royal and Kulusevski played together that day, and Royal scored. So it's there. But I feel like the teams that we've played in the last couple of weeks, they know that if we starve Kane, if we starve the front three of the ball, then basically I would say like 80%, 90% of the job is done. Like if they're only feeding off scraps. So like I agree with James. I would like to see us be a bit more attacking, and that does mean Lucas. I don't think Bergwijn would really be seen as an option by Conte, but and Conte's talked about playing Kulusevski at wing back, which I don't want to see either. So it's an interesting one. If he wants the wing backs to make the run inside, then okay, maybe Lucas can play in Kulusevski's place, and the two of them could work some kind of magic. But I would rather see Lucas as the wing back and Kulusevski in his normal spot.
Do you think that he's defensively minded enough? I mean, he does the running, Lucas, but that's the whole thing with Emerson, is that at least that there's that side to him, that he's a bit more defensively minded. Do you think
he is, but I don't want defense from my wing back in this system. That's the thing. Like if they can't provide you anything going forward, then when you've got three, you don't need three centre halves for a start. You could get away with only two. So I think that just with the system, like if we were going to play four at the back, then you might think, okay, well then with a right back behind him, then you'd have Emerson there anyway. But if he continues with three, you have to say, like, given the evidence we've seen in the last couple of weeks, I don't think there's enough thrust from either side, and that does mean that Lucas would be worth a go. Like we need to win. Like a draw doesn't help us this weekend. So it sounds crazy, but yeah, I feel like I would rather go out hoping to get three than hanging on for one. Like at some point we need victories now. There's only 5 games left. We need 3 points.
Well, end of the day, right? We're playing Leicester. We're not going to Anfield yet, although we will have to. We're not going to the Etihad. We're not going to the Bernabeu, right? We shouldn't be scared to play attacking players, and we have 2 defensive midfielders anyway, and we have 3 centre backs. I don't think it's crazy to suggest that perhaps we play a more attacking wing back. I mean, Mora works hard anyway, right? Like, I'm not asking for him to be Dani Alves or anything. Just get the ball and try and run forward. And, we have 3 centre-backs and 2 defensive midfielders. If that means Højbjerg, Conte says you have to cover the right a little bit more, he has to cover the right a little bit more. If that means we actually have a player making runs forward, then so be it. Because otherwise, it looks like we're going to draw every game 0-0 or lose 1-0. I'd rather score 3 and concede 2 than draw 0-0.
It's very Tottenham, isn't it? To dare is to do. Diver, you with that? Do you think that with the wing backs that we can be a bit more experimental and throw in a Lucas or something?
I think we need to do some things. It's so predictable. We've got nothing in midfield. It's creative. So we need to go on the wings, no creativity. But we're so easy to mark out because Kulusevski, which is the main attacking talent at the moment, well, who has he got supporting him? When he had Doherty, he had somebody supporting him. With Royal, he doesn't. So I think we need something. But I will defend Royal a tiny bit. I don't think he's quite as bad as everybody else thinks he is. Like, he's not giving us what we need from an attacking sense. That's not really debatable in my mind. But I don't think he's as bad defensively. Because people are saying he's worse than Aurier. I haven't seen him make as many mistakes as Aurier. I did see somebody in the chat say about, I think it was Tommy, say about a pass to Sanchez at Brentford, but that was painful. But also he got booed off, and I think as fans we've got to take a bit of responsibility sometimes. He's clearly, he's come to a new club in a new country, doesn't speak a language, trying to fit into a Conte team, which is not easy. And how many games has he played for us? 15, 20? And he's getting booed off when he was not the worst player on the pitch last weekend. There are many worse players on the pitch.
And that's the thing, Steve. Like, you just yeah, this is the point. Like, even if he isn't the long-term solution for whatever we want to do, you don't boo your own players. Like, it's not going to lead to anything apart from kind of self-satisfaction that, oh, I made my point. No, you made the point that you're a bit of a prat. These players will need support. Yes, they get paid lots of money. Yes, they have various privileges that the rest of us could only dream of. But at the end of the day, if you want someone to do their job better, you have to support them, no matter what the job is. So yeah, like I do think he's worse than Aurier. I will say that, but he still deserves, when you're in the stadium, to support him, to encourage him. When we went to the Newcastle game, the three of us that were there, Call on myself and Seb, we sat there and we talked about Royal a lot. In their first half, when we went 1-0 down, it looked like we were going to struggle because he wasn't sure what to do, when to go, when to make the run forward. And obviously, we were the second tier, so we were a bit too far away to yell like things. But if I was closer, I'd be yelling at him. But like encouraging and saying, like, now's a good time to go. Like, he probably wouldn't listen to me. Why would he? But I'd still be thinking that, because he looks nervous. And I feel like that nerves kind of plays on the mind of other players too. So, yeah, we have issues in that area for sure. But it's as fans, our job is to support the players.
He's played 36 games for us this season. I'm not sure how many of those are coming off the bench, sort of thing. There's 26 in the league, a few in the cup, League Cup, couple in Europa League. But he's young, right? And even if he's not outputting as much as Aurier, and even if he's got some horrendous passes like that Sanchez pass, I saw that and I just laughed because I was like, all right, yeah, it's just not happening, is it? Like, but
he's been scapegoated. Though. I saw that pass did the rounds on Twitter. Who doesn't miss a pass? Sometimes you miss a pass. You saw what he's trying to do. He had to put a bit of whip on it so that the attacking players couldn't get in there. He made a mistake. It was, and that for that to be the focus, that to be the reason that we didn't beat Brentford. Come on, it was. I just thought it was going way out.
To be fair, when they had their ridiculous run on the corners, when Ericsson magically somehow worked out how to beat the first man, which you could never do with us, not one, and the ball kept going to, I can't remember which Brentford player it was now, Tony maybe, but had 3 or 4 corners in a row where he was unmarked, like a back post, and everybody around me was getting on to Royal. They're like, oh, he's crap, like, why isn't he marking? When you look at the beginning of the corner, he had 3 players to mark. One went that way, one went that way, one went that way. Like, he can't. So sometimes he does get caught out, but I think it's now becoming a bit of a scapegoat for the fans, and I just think it's going to make him a worse player.
He's definitely young, right? And like, I don't think, there's obviously a player in there. He's just not playing very well right now. Which, having played football, if you're not in a confident mood, it's hard. It also affects people around you. Because I'm sure anyone who's played Sunday League knows there's possibly one person in your team who perhaps is not regarded as the best football player in the world, and you think, I'm not going to pass to you because you'll give the ball away. Personal experience. Anyway, I think basically our fullbacks aren't productive to play the current formation. The problem then is we have no midfielders, so we can't really play free in midfield. So unless we want to go to like a back 4 and play, I don't know, Lucas behind Kane, or play Kane there and play like Bergwijn, Son, Kulusevski, or play a 3-5-2 and play, I don't know, like, again, like one variation of that with one in the midfield. It's kind of tricky, unless we'll see a Harry Winks, Iniesta resurgence. But that's the thing, right? Like, multiple poor performances from the entire team, right? For the majority of the team, except Romero. Romero is perfect, and I will never criticize him. Like, you do start to say, okay, maybe this system does not suit the players we have, and we should change something, even if it's putting someone else at right wing back, even if it's going to a 3-5-2, even if it's tweaking something, but if you lose games badly in Football Manager, you change something, and Conte doesn't want to seem to change things, so obviously he needs lessons from me. But that's just my feeling. It's not that we lost a game and drew a game, it's that we played badly in 2 games. We could have played brilliantly and lost, and I'd have been like, well, it's unlucky, but that's not the thing. We played badly. That's the issue to me.
One thing I would say, totally agree with everything you said, but one thing I would say, what can we change it to? We haven't got that many options, because we have got, I mean, I'm usually relatively sportive of Enoch, but like we do have a pretty thin squad.
Wait, are you blaming Enoch, Steve? Because this one will be clipped if you are.
Yeah, of course. Like it is. At the end of the day, they take responsibility, win or lose. We have been left with a very small squad, and particularly in midfield. Like I said earlier, with Skip out and Winks on a bench and £100 million worth of midfielders on loan. Well, more than that with Hill as well. 125, 130 million of midfielders out on loan, which returning into Chelsea. Like it's slim pickings. Like he hasn't got that much to change it up. I do know one thing though. Somebody, I won't say that who, say Tom Minotti, somebody did say that they have considered, and I don't know how far they went with it, more as a right wing back. That has been done in training, but I don't know when, and I don't know a likelihood.
Is this a tip from the training ground you got after your little tour?
Potentially, yeah. Somebody mentioned it.
You should set up a Twitter account, Steve, as an anonymous in the know. There you go. You'll get loads of followers.
That's the in the know thing I've got from the entire tour. So
just flag it from there.
One tweet Twitter account.
Yeah, thousands of followers. Then just flag it from the rest.
Can you imagine having a Twitter account with only one tweet that turned out to be like the most prophetic thing that's ever been written in about 300 characters or whatever you get, and you just leave it there? And it's like, I always knew that, it's like knowing in the 80s or publicly saying in the 80s that Jimmy Savile, I should go there, but that kind of thing. You're all right. Like Spurs don't have options. Our options are a flat back four, which we've done when we've been behind in games, and we go to a 4-4-2, which doesn't solve the midfield options really anyway. And then, what have we got? 4-3-3. I mean, it's like Nuno ball again. A narrow 4-3-3, or you can play Son out wide and maybe have the kind of old traditional, or you put Son as the focal point and maybe play Bergwijn out wide and Kane as the 10. Like that, we do have a few options, but with the same players. That's the crazy thing. Like I think if Lucas or Bergwijn basically if Lucas or Bergwijn were injured, we wouldn't be making any attacking substitutions at all because they are the two that we have, and most games those two are brought on at some point. So it's it is scary.
86th minute.
Yeah, and if we do it, we've got to be done beforehand.
And that's only for Stevie, so Stevie comes on the 86th minute.
I think that's the problem, though, right? Like, we're playing three attacking players effectively because our fullbacks are fullbacks, not wingbacks, not particularly productive attacking-wise. We need to be playing four, basically. So how do you fit a fourth in is effectively the question. Do you play someone as a wingback? Do you change formation? I'm sure we could do some weird thing with Kane behind, like, Son and Kulusevski, right? I'm sure we could. Or some amalgamation of something. I mean, Conte's a world-class manager. He should be able to figure that out. I'm sure I could draw a formation that's really weird that fits in more. The bottom line for me, the TLDR for me, is play another attacking player because 3 obviously isn't working. And if we play 3 against Leicester and the players play the same way, then we probably won't win. Or if we do win, it'll be lucky because Kane had a weldy shot or Son dribbled past 3 players or something, which is, not a good feeling.
But we've sat here on previous shows and talked about how, we get outnumbered in midfield. Right, I mean that is the key issue in all games, is that we can't find a way to get the ball forward, and the other teams have more numbers in midfield, so we can't get it off them. And so you're left with either you move one of your centre backs into midfield, and you can ask Dyer to do that, maybe even Romero to do it. Really, although I'd probably go with Dyer, or you say sod it, I am going to throw on another attacker and say I'll deal with the fact that we've got a weaker midfield, but I'm going to give you more problems than you can handle. And right now, we're not giving teams any problems either. So something has to change. Like Leicester might be a bit more open than Brentford and Brighton were, but they're also very good on the ball. And I saw a comment about how Leicester might rest players because obviously they have the second leg against Roma next week. That's all true. But Leicester are very set in how they play as well. Like we kind of know what they're going to do. It might be, Barnes, or it might be Perez, or it might be Patson Daka instead of Vardy, and it might be they've got a number of players that they could play. Is there a massive drop in quality? Well, maybe not, because Leicester aren't that great right now. So resting players seems good for Spurs, but if they're bringing in people that didn't play in the week, well, those players are going to want to play well and maybe keep their place for the game against Roma next week anyway. It's I don't know. Like, there's just, as far as Spurs are concerned, we have to do something because it hasn't worked for 2 games, and there's no real sign that Sunday will be any different.
Steve, have you seen much of Leicester this season? What have you made of them? And do you agree with this comment that they are focusing, because they can't make the Europe through the league? They're too far back. So winning the conference is their best hope. So would they have an eye on the Roma game next week and look to rest players? Would they be distracted? And how do you think that is the case?
Yeah, I think I haven't seen too much of them. I've seen a few of their games. They've been a bit patchy, haven't they? They seem to love a draw at the moment. They've had a lot of draws over the recent games. If I were Brendan, I would be not you, manager. I'd be resting some players, because Spurs away, it's not a derby, it's not a meaningful game in the league for them. Whereas it is Roma they've got, isn't it? Whereas, Roma, the away leg, so 1-1 first leg, that's an important game for them. So, yeah, but they beat us. Was it last season they beat us, or the season before they beat us 1-0? Obviously, we beat them, not to call a nose, but we beat them. I'm not going to keep mentioning that.
This is why he's not here tonight. It's not to do with his mum. He just doesn't want to hear those jokes about him leaving Leicester.
Mum's birthday's in August, isn't it? So I'm not too worried about them. I'm more worried. I mean, this is proper Spursy. I'm more worried about us than I am them.
James, do you remember the obviously we all remember the Leicester game, but our XG in that game, I think, was our highest ever. Like, it was something crazy, like 6, maybe not that high, but do you remember that game? Because we had so many chances, both first half and second half, and it was a crime that Leicester nearly ran away with the points.
I remember watching that game and thinking, do you know, we're playing actually quite well, Yeah. I was sat and I was just kind of thinking, are we going to score? Are we going to score? And I genuinely turned off at the 90th minute because I thought, okay, brilliant, we've lost because of James Maddison. And then I look at the group chat and see someone type Bergwijn. So I turn my television back on and I see the highlight of him scoring. I think, oh, brilliant, a point. We'll take that sort of thing.
Take a draw.
And then Gary Tielemans gives the ball away and he scores the winner. And I just kind of stare in shock. Yeah, very weird game that. Leicester aren't very good, are they? Basically, I mean, Jamie Vardy won't play. Evans probably won't play because they're both like old. Sorry, guys. Old for football players. Although I think Buffon's 45 and still playing, so whatever. Anyway,
Vardy came off quite early, about an hour into the Roma game, didn't he? He was booked. I don't know. I didn't see the game, so I don't know if he was putting a few tackles in and maybe a red card was coming, but he came off quite early. Roma, yeah.
Never from Jamie Vardy. I'd imagine he'd want to save him for the Roma game, though, right? Like, again, like you said, this game is less important to us. So to them, right? Playing us is less important to them than the Roma game, right? They're not going to get relegated and they're not going to get Europe. They're in that middle zone where they're mid-table. So, like, yeah, imagine Tielemans will play. Actually, come to think of it, considering Bergwijn scored 2 goals against them last time we played them, wouldn't it almost in a way be good to play him against them? Yeah. Like, haha, I stole 3 points off you last time, I'm back for more. What like on a superficial level, why not, right? I mean, Kulusevski hasn't been brilliant lately. Why not take him out of the team for the game? And if Bergwijn's terrible for the first 45 minutes, well, you can make a substitution at half-time, Antonio. You haven't got to wait till the 85th minute. It's like Pochettino again. He'd wait till the 95th minute to make a sub, and the sub's on for 2 seconds, and then the game's over. I don't understand why managers do that. It really annoys me. Like, if something's not going well, make a change. It's just change it. I'm not saying.
I guess if they've decided, early on in the game that this is what will be the way that wins us the game, like to go against what you originally thought is probably tough for some people. Like, I mean, I agree with you; they should change it. But if you've spent all week saying this is how we're going to hurt the other team, and then it's almost embarrassing to give up on that.
Well,
It is, but it's like walking up to a door, isn't it? If you're not sure if it's a push or pull door, and you keep pushing it and it doesn't open, then you try something
You
different.
walk away.
I'll give up.
You don't keep standing at the door, do you?
did that happen to you today, Steve?
I won't lie. I haven't left home today. I haven't even been outside. I've been lazy.
All right, I have a quick question for you since I looked this up. Right, when we beat Leicester back in January, whenever it was, January, right? Name our team that started that game.
The Leicester game.
Yeah, the Leicester game at Leicester, the team that started. I'll give you a hint. It was a 5-3-2.
Hugo, Davies, Dyer.
Hugo did. Davies didn't. Oh, yeah, Davies. Yep, Davies. Yep.
Sanchez
played.
Romero was injured.
Sorry,
Romero was injured, wasn't he?
Romero was injured, so he didn't play. So Davies and Sanchez were two of them defensive three, the three centre backs. Who was the third centre back?
Wasn't Dyer.
No.
Roden?
No.
Tanganga?
Tanganga.
Yeah.
We had three centre backs, was Tanganga, Sanchez, and Davies. Who were the fullbacks or the wing backs?
I think Reggie played, didn't he?
Reggie started, yeah, and who was the right wing back?
Emerson.
Emerson, right? So that's your back five. Emerson on one side, Sanchez, Tanganga, and Davies in the middle, and Reggie on the other. Who were the three in midfield?
Højbjerg.
Winks, Højbjerg.
Yeah, Winks, Højbjerg, and
Was Lo Celso still here?
no. Well, he was still here, but he didn't start. He came off.
Ndombele?
Nope. We talked about him earlier tonight as well.
We had three in midfield. You see?
Yeah.
Skip.
Winks, Højbjerg, and
Skip.
Skip.
What a sensational midfield for
Right. So that's your back eight in effect. Right. Three defensive midfielders, a back five. Who was up front? I mean, Kane
and Son, no?
Nope.
No,
Son. And Lucas then.
Kane and Lucas are the two up top. How the heck? Not only did we win that game, but we played well.
Hey, bloody well. We did.
Right? And then we're sitting there, and we all remember how well we played. And you look at that team, like the Celso came on for Winks, and to be fair, Doherty came on for Emerson at half time, which changed a lot, right? Because I think Doherty got involved for the equaliser, but Doherty played well in that game. But yeah, what an awful 11 to start that game with, and yet we played well.
It's because Harry Winks is the English Iniesta. That's why. I mean, I joke, but he's the only person who is particularly decent at passing aside from Bentancur, right? Like, he kind of can pass the ball forward if he tries. If Antonio slaps him every time he passes the ball sideways, maybe he'll do that a bit more. I mean, he had a really good, it was like 5 years ago. But that game against Real, he had some spectacular passes. I mean, you don't just forget how to pass the ball forward, surely, right? Like, I think that's the thing. We don't do well with a midfield two. We need a midfield three. We need a creative in the midfield because there's no progression from our fullbacks. The only reason two in midfield works is because your wing backs are incredibly productive. Like when Conte played this formation at Chelsea, it worked because his fullbacks were very productive. Like he played Victor Moses and I think Marcus Alonso, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they were very productive attacking players, right? If he had Emerson Royal and Cess, they wouldn't have won the league. So, like, again, he'd have had to have played a free midfield or something else, which is, the problem we have because those are our fullback options at the moment. So
we've stumbled on the fact that maybe a midfield three is not a bad idea, but we just don't have the numbers to do it now.
Harry Winks.
Can we congratulate Kerry King for spelling Ericsson's name right? I think she's never spells supporter.
Well done, Kerry.
Everybody spells it wrong. It's so annoying.
Well, let's look to wrap up the section for the Leicester preview. Let's do what we do on the pod. I don't know if we do it on YouTube. Predictions. So, you, James, what do you think the score will be on Sunday against Leicester?
2-1.
2-1. It's cautious. How about you, Steve?
I mean, I predict I'm going to get very drunk. I also predict I'm going to have issues because I'm on keto and I don't quite know what I can eat. I don't think they're going to score, but I don't think they're going to score many. So 1-0. And I think it's going to be an edgy 1-0. We're going to score in a 70-something, 80-something minute, and it's going to be a hostile atmosphere, I think.
It's funny. Steve's prediction is basically what I thought would happen at Brentford. I thought we'd nick that pretty late, having played badly.
There was a hostile atmosphere at Brentford. I spent the entire time next to John. I tell you what, he comes across meek-mannered, but when he gets in a football ground, hooligan.
Really?
Not that I could get into the ground because, thank you, Spurs, you screwed my tickets up. You sent them to the wrong place. And we got the wrong ticket, so it wouldn't let me into the ground, which didn't go down well. And then my reprinted ticket wouldn't let me in either. Not a happy start to that game or happy finish. No happy ending.
Like a gold card or something with the Tunnel Club stuff. Like, do you know who I am? Just whop it out. Call Hugo. Get into
we were next to David Howes though, so I think I was a few pegs down from him, unfortunately.
John showed me the engagement from that tweet. Like everyone loves David Howes. It's just he's the first player I ever met.
He was moaning about the performance. There were some comments coming over.
Wow. HG, what's your prediction then?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's similar. Like, I think I don't think we'll play well because I don't think we'll have attacking wing backs. So it's going to come down to how well Leicester can be bothered to stop our passing it to Kane. Hopefully, they've rested a couple. So yeah, maybe 2-0 if we're lucky. But I'm not expecting it to be a relaxing afternoon at all.
Is that ever HG?
No, because I mean, even the Villa game, 4-0 looks great, but that first half we were like, bricking it. So, yeah,
even against Newcastle, like we won 5-1. The first half was dreadful. Like I missed the first goal because as soon as they scored, I thought, for God's sake, I'm going to go get another drink because I'm going to need it. I'm going to need 7 more drinks. That's how bad it was. And then we scored, and then I regret. Well, actually, I don't regret going for my drink because I got my drink and went to the toilet without being late, which is an impossible task at Spurs, as anyone who's gone knows. But yeah, I don't. It's tough, right? Because we're not playing very well at the moment. We've managed to scrape some results. Like even against Villa, right? We scored 4 goals, but that's because they kind of threw everything at us because we were on the defence. I mean, we took our chances, but Hugo made some spectacular saves. The worst goalkeeper would have conceded 3 or 4, right? Even Newcastle, I don't know why on earth they decided to play a high back line against us. That was just bizarre to me. Again, that could have easily been a draw had Eddie Howe not done that. Like even the other Leicester game, right? Like we should have lost that game. At the end of the day, we shouldn't have, but we very easily could have. A lot of these results we have gotten, we've shithoused results a lot of the time. We haven't played anyone off the park and gotten 3 points. I don't think this season at all. So
I'm going to go get a top up. When I come back, I've got something very controversial to share on Hugo.
Ooh,
okay, wow.
Daily Mail online headline: "You will be shocked."
Right, Steve.
I'm going to go with HG's. I'm going to go with 2-0 as well. While Steve's gone, let's just look at the stories from the week. Lots of rumours about Conte to PSG. It just keeps resurfacing, and there's these quotes here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just what annoyed me was, I mean, when he was asked, "Can you confirm that you'll be the manager at Spurs next season?" and he didn't. But then you kind of with that, you're kind of like, well, he doesn't know anyway. Like he may not. We could get someone else and we could sack him. So him to say, "I will definitely be here next season," fair enough. It just I'm not a huge fan of Conte in press conferences, as I was with Poch and Mourinho. But his words were, "I think it's good that other clubs appreciate my work." Again, quite Pochettino style to start off with. But the truth is, I don't like when people try to invent news only to speak and to create problems. This is not right, not fair for me, for the club involved, and for my players. Also, because we're really focused on these 5 games to get a fantastic result for us. It's not right, not fair for me. Yeah. So, HG, I think it's bullshit. But what's your thoughts on the PSG rumours?
I mean, we talked about it a little bit on the last show, but even though PSG are PSG, and obviously they've got lots of money and all the rest of it, are they really that an attractive drop? right now. Like, yes, you'll win the French league, but I'm not sure Conte really cares about that. Yes, you'll get, guaranteed Champions League football. Well, maybe Conte wants to improve his record in that, but you'll also get a squad that won't have Mbappe. So, like, it's not as enticing as it was, when Tuchel took over. So I do wonder, really, as much as Spurs, aren't, we're not one of the greatest teams. But we are a massive club, and it's not as if there's anyone else really available that would take Conte tomorrow. So when he gets these questions, I just wish he'd turn around and ask the same question back, and say to Matt Law, because it's usually Matt Law, so will you be working for the Telegraph next year, or will you be going to the Athletic like everyone else? Like. Because then they might understand how ridiculous the question is. Like, don't get me wrong, he could come out and say, "I plan to be here," right, and that would answer it too. But obviously, he doesn't want to do that, and so maybe there are reasons I don't know. But like, I'm bored of the question. I'm sure he's bored of answering it. I just wish that he could have some fun with it. But I think everyone knows that when you give a little back to the media, they do make your life even worse. And deliberately so, because they don't like being shown up. And I think kind of that's what happened a little bit with AVB, that he got a bit annoyed at all the negative questions about what was going on with Spurs, and gave a little back, and they his side of football didn't help either, but they buried him for it. There was no relaxation of kind of understanding of anything. Like, Redknapp could do and say whatever he pleased, and would always get kind of an easy ride. But foreigners don't seem to get that luxury. Not that that's the reason, but it's an interesting one.
I mean, I never read too much into press conference comments, just because. I mean, if I was a manager and I had constant stupid questions, I'd get incredibly pissed off and do something Jose-esque, just because, like, if you've just lost a game of football and someone's coming up and asking you stupid questions, I personally wouldn't have any tolerance for it, and I can't imagine managers would either. So I don't generally pay too much attention to them. I mean, we have loads of... I don't know. Press conferences, just, I don't really care that much beyond knowing who's injured and who might play, right? So, in regards to PSG, I don't know. Can you imagine Antonio Conte walking up to the PSG board and being like, "Yeah, I don't like Spurs, sell him. I'm not going to play him." Like, no, that's not how PSG works. You do what the board tell you to. So why would he go there? He'd lost like 6 months because he'd have or 6 weeks. He'd have a falling out because Conte's not the kind of person to do what he's told. He says, "No, this is how you win, and if you don't like it, I'll go somewhere else."
It's interesting how, like, when Man United needed a manager and they weren't sure what they were going to do, and Gary Neville was quite adamant. They just beaten Spurs 3-0, and he was like, Conte is not a Man United manager, for the short-term reasons that Conte's career has kind of been. And suddenly, like, PSG would be the perfect fit. Like, you're right, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and Spurs, like, we're a good catch. Like, I hate the feeling that I get from him sometimes, that he's doing us a favour by being our manager. I don't like that. I'd rather him sort of acknowledge that we are a big club. We've not been racking up trophies in the last 20 years, fair dues, but we're still a big club, and we are worthy of a good manager. So I just rather he'd sort of knuckle down and not sort of do the...
Yeah, but Bren, I mean, let's be honest, he is doing us a favour. Like, none of us could believe it when he signed for us.
We went from Nuno. We went from Nuno to Conte. Look, he's acted like this at every club he's ever been at. He acted like this at Juve, the biggest club in Italy, right? He acted like this at Chelsea to some extent, right? Like, this is just Conte's personality, right? And I mean, if you don't like it, don't watch the press conferences. Don't read them. I don't very often, because I think it's mostly bullshit. That's what it is. It's just stupid questions from, like, junior journalists trying to provoke a response so they can post something in the bloody tabloids. So it's I'd be in trouble very quickly if I was a manager, because I would use some select words. But anyway, he's not going to go to PSG. That's bullshit. He's going to stay at Spurs. Now, whether at the end of the 18 months he gets pissed off with Levy then leaves, that's a different question. But he's not going to go to PSG. End of. Simple as. Right. What were you going to say about Hugo, Stevie?
Yeah, Hugo.
That's what we want to hear.
I agree with what James said. He's not going. I think it's all noise. So I've got two controversial things to say, and I'd be interested in a chat on your guys' view on this as well. So somebody on Wednesday mentioned their view was we would never win anything with Hugo as our goalie. And their view was he's too easy to score against. A striker knows they're going to go in, they're going to score against him. He's not the tallest of goalies. And the one bit that resonated with me before I get kicked off, I do rate Hugo, got a lot of love for him, and like great servant to the club. His positioning isn't great. The amount of times, and this is a bit that made me, so I was a few glasses of wine in, and I was a bit ballsy over my comebacks, and then this person said, how many times does a ball go into the 6-yard box and pretty much any other keeper would gather it, but Hugo's on his line? He's not the tallest keeper, and he steps back in his line far too much. And in this person's view, one of the reasons why Hugo makes so many worldy saves is a bit like why Kyle Walker made so many great tackles, because they bloody had to, because they got themselves into trouble by being in the wrong position. In Walker's case, by being too far upfield and using his pace to get back. In Hugo's case, by being too far back, allowing too much of a goal to shoot at. And then clearly he has great reflexes and is a great athlete, and using that to get himself out of trouble. I don't wholly subscribe to that view, but I can see what they're talking about. Like his position can be weak.
Well, okay.
There's some points. One thing that I want to point out, though, quickly before you go on, James. There is a trophy that he has won quite recently. You go, James.
That was the point I was going to make. He's won a small trophy, the World Cup. Don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's a small tournament. Doesn't.
I think it's probably club level, but yeah, agreed.
I mean, if you can win the World Cup, you can win arguably anything. I mean, we got to a Champions League final. He wasn't the reason we lost the Champions League final, was it? Right? It was dodgy refereeing decisions. That's a joke. I'm still not over the Sissoko handball. But, we could have won a Champions League final. We've been in other semi-finals, right? Like, he wasn't at fault for all of this. Sure, maybe he has some errors. He's horrible on the ball. Please don't let him ever pass the ball short. I mean, even in the World Cup final, he did that stupid thing. I think it was Mandzukic who scored, right? He's horrible on the ball, but he's a very, very good shot stopper. He clearly loves the club. He's very clearly good behind the scenes. Conte thinks that. He's a lovely guy. I have a photo with him.
Driving, yep.
And I don't know, who else would we get? I mean, unless, again, it's one of those things that I don't think it's an issue in the squad at the moment. I think there are much bigger issues in the squad, like the wing-back areas, like the midfield. I mean, maybe if we were winning everything and we were looking at how can we improve this squad, sure, maybe. I mean, we're going to have to buy someone to replace him at some point because, he's going to eventually stop playing for Spurs or retire entirely, right? So it's valid to think about that. But yeah, and there are some good points. He does do some silly things. But no, I think he's a very good goalkeeper for us, and we definitely can win stuff with him. I hope we do.
I don't wholly subscribe to the view that was told to me, and I think we can win stuff with Hugo and the team. The one thing I found interesting was when, as fans, we talk about Hugo, we talk about the fact that he's going to have one silly mistake in his game, right? He's going to pass the ball into his own net and break his shoulder at the same time. Yeah, like I don't know many goalkeepers who do that. He's going to kick a ball straight out of touch or into the opposing striker. He's always going to do something a bit silly, right? But overall, he's very good. But the one thing I haven't really thought about is when you look back at the games, and I had a look back yesterday and today, he does stand back an awful long way. His positioning is a bit weird. But the weird thing is, if somebody at Tottenham is telling me that, why aren't they saying that to him, and why aren't they changing it? Bit weird.
Yeah, well, let's look ahead to let's look at the top 4 race quickly now before we get on to your tour of the training ground and hopefully get some more secrets from you. So this is the current number of fixtures that we have against the Goons. The Goons are in the driving seat, but we win all our games. We get top 4. They win all their games. And if we win all ours, it doesn't matter if they win all theirs. But we do have to go to Anfield. They've got West Ham coming up. HG, a quick word on the Frankfurt game. How much did you love that?
Like weirdly enough, like it wasn't Frankfurt's best performance of the season, not by a long way. I thought West Ham probably deserved to get a draw, but they got the goals. So when Frankfurt scored twice, I mean, within 50 seconds, I was like, "This is great. I could watch this." But yeah, it was a close game. But it was nice to see West Ham take that close game and somehow find a way to lose, because I feel that they had a lot of the better chances. And I feel like Frankfurt kind of had lots of opportunities on the counter and were wasted. They could have got a third. So, like, had it been 2-1 to West Ham, I wouldn't have complained, really. Had it been 2-2, it would have been the fairest result. But 2-1 to Frankfurt is good. And Frankfurt will have two of their better players back for next week's second leg. So obviously I enjoyed it. I like Frankfurt, but, everyone knows how I feel about West Ham. So to have that double was nice. And 6 more days I get to see it again. Because I honestly, I will say, whatever game you watch next Thursday, because there'll be a few, like the Feyenoord Marseille game will be big, and the obviously the Rangers against Leipzig, that's pretty close. But if you want to watch a 50,000 seat stadium rock for a good maybe an hour before kickoff, then that's what I think the Frankfurt ground will be like. They are insane about that team, and they'll know that like home advantage will be worth something, an awful lot in that game. And if West Ham come out having got through, then West Ham probably will have deserved it. There's no way it's going to be even if Frankfurt conceded in the first minute like West Ham did, I think that the fans at Frankfurt they will still make it count. So it's well worth the spectacle. It'll be a great game to watch.
Amazing. One thing issue though, do you think though? I'll go to you, Steve. Do you think that West Ham will be much like Leicester will be distracted by the Roma game next week? Do you think West Ham will be distracted for their game against Frankfurt against the Goons? Because we need them to do us a favour. Well, we don't need them, but it'd be great if they did us a favour.
I think I'll be distracted. I don't think I'll be as distracted as Leicester are, because Leicester don't care about us. West Ham do care about Arsenal. I mean,
is it not just us they care about? They do care about Arsenal. Just want to
not as much as us. I mean, we're their cup final, right?
Yeah.
But if we were playing, I can't really think of an equivalent team, but if we were playing another London club who we have some level of hatred between West Ham and probably Arsenal, like we may rest 1 or 2 players, but you're still going to bring kind of like A game to the table. So I think they'll rest a couple, but I don't think they'll go in weak. Maybe I'm being.
I mean,
but
I'm sure, and this maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure David Moyes would love to finish above Man U with West Ham. I'm sure, as a personal level, he would love that. He'd feel very vindicated, and I'm sure they'd much rather be in a Europa League spot than a Conference League spot, because they might lose to Frankfurt and then be in a Conference League, and I'm sure they'd much rather be in the Europa League again, right? They'd probably rather be in the Champions League, but as the league still does matter to them a bit, doesn't it?
I'm not sure where West Ham are, but because United are 6th, right? So they're behind us. That means West Ham are 7th. But Wolves are probably close enough that they might catch West Ham. And West Ham, if they don't get any European football, because they need to finish top 7 to get it, if they don't get any European football, then maybe Declan Rice says this summer, I'm off. Right? Like obviously it would take a lot of money. And Rice, West Ham have the leverage here. So West Ham could easily say, we'll keep you for another year regardless. But obviously, they want to be in Europe again. Even if it is the Conference League, they've had a taste this year. They've done very, very well to get as far as they have done. They've beaten some very good teams. And so to have that season and then go away with nothing, as much as we would love it, clearly West Ham don't want that. So if it means that West Ham have to go a bit, if they care a bit more about the Arsenal game than perhaps they would have done, that's got to be good in our eyes. But they do have something riding on it. It's not like Leicester, as you said, where everything is in Europe. West Ham, that they can easily get Europe through the league, and they'll want to for lots of reasons.
There's also I saw it on Twitter, and John put it in the run sheet. There is a faint possibility of a playoff between Arsenal and Spurs. If we had the same points, same goal scored, same goal difference, it's a faint chance, but it could happen. It's in the rules. That would blow all North London derbies away.
Where would it be played? Wembley?
Almost certainly, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, that would be horrible. I don't want this to happen. Can we just win all our games, please? That would be the most stressful. Oh my god, imagine if it went to penalties as well. Oh god, that would be so stressful.
I've yet to see Spurs win at. I know we have won a cup at New Wembley, so I've seen us win. I think one game at New Wembley. That's it.
Wow.
I've seen us lose far too many times at Wembley. So
I don't.
Well, even when we were playing there for a year and a half, you didn't see us win there.
it's a pain in the bum for us to go to. So we didn't go much. We gave
Yeah.
it.
So wait, so you were Shan before there was Shan?
I was Shan. There was Shan.
Well, I think I probably went to more Spurs games at Wembley than at either the old ground or the new ground, because A, it was easier for me and my dad to get to, and B, just because, well, when we were at the old ground, I was like 12 or 13, and obviously COVID. But granted, I have seen us win at Wembley quite a bit, apart from the time when we went 2-0 up against West Ham, then lost 3-2. That was an enjoyable car ride home.
Man. Look, I don't want to think about a playoff against Arsenal. Right,
That sounds horrible.
I'll only even consider that it might be possible if it's like the final day of the season, and like one game needs to finish 3-1 and the other one is like 1-1. Then okay, but with 5 games to go, I don't want to think about it. I really don't.
I don't think anyone would want that other than Sky, basically, and maybe other fans. I mean, I'm sure if we didn't support Spurs, if we were all, I don't know, Frankfurt fans or not Frankfurt, some other team, if we were all Southampton fans, it'd probably be very entertaining to watch, right, as a neutral, but we're not neutrals, so we don't want it to happen because it would be unpleasant to watch. No, this can just not happen. Can we just win our games, please, Spurs? Antonio, please, mate.
Also, just worked out, I've seen, this is an odd stat, I've seen, despite the fact we played there for a year and a half, I've seen Spurs play more times at the Emirates in the league than have at Wembley in the league.
Wow.
That's because you can look out your bedroom window. You can see the pitch. Like, I've been to your place, man. You got
perfect view of the Emirates. For anyone who doesn't know where Diver lives when he's in London, he has a perfect view of the Emirates.
Bit awkward.
Yeah, it's very awkward.
I came home from work actually and I had my Spurs scarf on. It's winter, and I forgot Arsenal were playing in Europa League or something, and they closed off all the podium. They do security searches, and I have a Spurs scarf on, and my little Spurs is coming up poppy times, having little Spurs poppy. I walked up, I was like, there's a lot of people around tonight, what's going on? Then security stopped me, and the guy looks at me and he's like, you taking the piss? I'm just going home, mate. Like, he's like, oh, you're a brave man walking around the podium with that on. I'm like, I think I'll be fine. But need to do a Spurs shirt. Do want to hang up the Spurs flag, but I told that's not allowed apparently.
well,
an Arsenal game midweek would only have about $4,000 in there, so it's not wasn't so brave of you, Steve.
Let's get on to the visit to the training ground, Diver. Let's get the pictures up. So this was on Wednesday, was it?
On Wednesday, yep. So for those who don't know, I was very, very lucky and fortunate. Got invited along to the training ground on Wednesday. So we had a bit of a tour. And I tell you what, the ground, like, it was a bittersweet tour because the facilities we have are just world class. They're second to none. And every single thing they do, and they've got quite a good philosophy club, like a ground at least, they talk about no excuses. So what they say is everything they do in the training ground, they want there to be not a Spurs vending machine. I really want Caller needs that in his man cave. But their philosophy on the training ground is no excuses. So whatever happens on the pitch, there can never, ever, ever, ever be any comeback to the training ground on the players couldn't train because of weather, or the gym was flooded, or the players got a bad night's sleep. So I like that. The thing that infuriated me was our facilities are, best in world. So Liverpool and Leicester came to ours, viewed our facilities and went, that's great, we're going to nick some of your ideas. Daniel Levy went, great. I'm going to get my checkbook out, and this is when some people get angered, and I'm going to better our facilities so we're back to the top again. So Spurs are almost quadrupling the size of their academy because Liverpool did it. We're building we built the ladies' training ground, but the entire place, and I must admit, I mentioned to a couple of people who work there, if any of you are listening, you're awesome people. Like, everybody I met was an absolute saint, Spurs through and through, true professional, just brilliant people. So we've got a lot of good people in the club supporting us and helping us. But a couple of little facts that were a bit odd. Well, first of all, for those who don't know, the training ground is split into 2 bits. So you've got the main training centre that I think everybody's probably seen, with the kind of almost tear-shaped, with that gym and like a tear-shaped. I couldn't share a photo of this because the kids were training and they asked us not to take photos of that, or at least not to put it on social media. But there's a tear-shaped kind of indoor training centre where the club have done a lot of photos. That's the main training bit, right? Where you've got the gym and you've got the offices and where the first team go. You've then got the lodge, which is basically like a hotel. And it's like a 5-star boutique hotel. That's exactly it. The club, I'm an accountant, so no apologies. Yeah, the club have done really well, right? Because that lodge can be sectioned off. Italy trained there, Brazil train there whenever they come over. The NFL teams train there. They've got pitches behind the lodge that's secluded from Spurs. And Spurs have a contract that every cup final, so European Cup final at Wembley, and every National Cup final at Wembley, so Euros or World Cup it becomes, one of the teams will be at Spurs and be there to train and to go to Wembley. So that's smart. Like the little tidbits, like the attention to detail. So the lawnmowers they use around the lodge where the players sleep, apparently sometimes they sleep during the day if they have double training sessions, a bit of sleep, they're electric. And they're electric, so they don't wake the players up. All the other lawnmowers on the site are normal petrol type lawnmowers, but the ones near the players are electric. All the plants near the players are low pollen, so they don't get those ones. So they don't get any kind of like issues with pollen. The beds, and this is a bit wild. So they had special beds made, and it's in the players' contracts that the mattress at the lodge, and they get their own room like a lodge, the mattress at the lodge, and the England players, by the way, so when Kane plays for England, he gets the same room as he gets to Spurs. It's in their contract they have to sleep on the same mattress at Spurs and at home. So Spurs will buy them a mattress for their house, and they have to sleep on that. And the idea being they want it literally to be a home away from home. But the actual bed they have at Spurs, the legs are kind of, I guess, bed legs, do you call them? What the bed sits on, are tucked away under the bed. Because as a tour guide explained to us, who was the manager of the site, great guy, by the way, it'd be really embarrassing for the club if Kane got up to go pee in the middle of the night, broke his toe on the bed leg, and was out for 4 weeks. So like everything at Cawtry, everything has redundancies. Even the lighting in the rooms have 2 red lights at floor level, one in the main room, one in the bathroom. So player wakes up in the middle of the night, needs a toilet, doesn't need to turn the lights on, doesn't wake themselves up, doesn't break into their circadian rhythm or whatever it's called, and they can guide themselves to the toilet and, as they so eloquently said, not piss all over the floor. So like literally Spurs are just short of everything in the training ground, and we've got such a good base for the club going forward. Also the lodge doubles up for the main training centre. So if there's some incident in the main training centre, flood, fire, whatever, it was out of action, the squad can move those couple hundred meters away and train there as well.
So there's pitches at the lodge. There's enough size pitches to train at the lodge as well. I think that's what Conte did when he had COVID as well. When the Argentines came back for their quarantine, they were training at the lodge to be separate from the main training ground.
Yeah, so the lodge is all on the same site and they share most of the same pitches, but there's, I think, 2 behind the lodge they can use. But the lodge itself has a gym, has a recovery pool, hot and cold. So, like, if needs be, it wouldn't be ideal, but the gym is big enough for the squad to use. And a couple of cool things they brought over. They've got one in the lodge and they've got one in the main training centre. They've got a room that they can seal off and they can either up or lower the pressure. And likewise, they've got a room that's got a treadmill on it. I can't remember the brand of treadmill now. They got it from the US, but they can flood the treadmill. I think maybe on the Spurs documentary, there's a video of Kane or Ericsson on it. And both of those are used for recovery. And both of those are very expensive. But as a tour
How do you mean
guide,
flood the treadmill? How do you mean flood it? Sorry.
so literally they're running underwater, so the water comes
Okay.
up. So if you're recovering from a lower body injury, you can do a little bit of fitness and get yourself moving without having full impact. Now, as a tour guide said to us, that costs a lot of money. But if that brings Kane back 1 week early, Kane scores 2 goals, he wins us a game, and that gets us into a Champions League versus Europa League, well, that's worth 40, 50, 60 million. That treadmill with a bit of water in it and that well-sealed room with basically a big pump on it, that didn't cost 40, 50 million. So, they're looking at incremental changes that can help the club all the time.
And they bought the golf course.
Sorry, go on, Bren.
I was just saying about they bought the golf course adjacent. What's the plan for that? Or is it just to be a golf course to keep Harry Kane happy?
The golf course kills me. So the golf course has had so much bad press on Twitter. So quite rightly, Spurs got a kicking. Like the cheese room, we're 4 white men on here, and most of us are middle aged, so we're probably not good at diversity. We are a diverse channel, and we do support women's rights. The club do, but a little bit cheekily, I must say. So they invested and put a lot of social media stuff out about the women's team being very important, and the women's training centre was pretty much a porta cabin. That is very poor quality.
It's like West Ham's training ground.
Huh?
Like West Ham's training ground. There's his porta cabin.
Yeah.
Like
Even worse than West Ham's training ground. So Spurs, and they said they were going to do this anyway. Who knows? Who cares? But that's why they leased the bankrupt council golf course next to the existing training ground. Part of it's for local community, and then part of it is for the women's training ground. So they've now built, I think they've just finished it. The tour didn't cover it, but we could kind of see it in a distance, all finished off. They've now built a world-class ladies training ground, which I think is bloody fantastic. And I've seen, I think I've said a few times, we've been to a couple of women's games. Like anybody listening to the show, if you get a chance, go. It's a good, nice day out. Quality of football's good, and it's entertaining. Like we go to football to be entertained. It's a good day out. So that's the brand. That's why they bought leased, so I should say, the golf course next door, primarily for the women's training ground.
I want to be devil's advocate a little bit here, right? Because Steve, like you talked about all these incremental changes, these little bit here, little bit there that will help maybe get Kane back 1 game earlier than before. Brilliant. Got nothing wrong, nothing against that. But what about the guy who plays when Kane is out injured? Like, why can't we spend a bit of money and get one of those in? Because like if Kane is out for 4 weeks. Yeah, okay, it's great that it's only 4 instead of 5, but for those 4 weeks, you don't have a striker. Like, sometimes it's like, look, you've got to sort the big problems out as well, right? Like, I know that you know this, right? But I'm sitting here as a fan thinking it's great that they're focusing on all these tiny little things, but Spurs before Conte showed up were pretty broken. Like we were struggling. You know, it looked like our best player wanted to leave. He did want to leave. There's no wanted about that. He did want to leave. So like I'm grateful that we've got all these little things, but some of those big things need to be there. Now Paratici's there. That's great. I trust him to make more right decisions than the wrong ones. Like I think even if Brian Hill came back, it would turn out to be a good decision that we signed him. And we don't know what's going to happen with Sarr. But at some point, it's like, right, stop with the little things and focus on, frankly, the reason the club exists, which is the men's football team. Like if we get into the Champions League, then that will help everything, not just the men's team. So it's just, I don't know. Like I don't want to be that guy. Because I like what I've seen from Spurs over the last 15 years. In fact, I love it. I never thought I'd see Spurs have this run that we've had. I really would. I never believed it. But at this point now, it's got to be, with all the holes that we have, we've got to go out and sign more players. Like not just pay for Romero and Kulusevski, but like even if it's just a loan deal. Like at some point, if Conte says, "Look, I don't want Lo Celso because of X, Y, Z," even though he's already with us, and I'm willing to loan him out, then replace him with someone who you do trust for those 6 months that he's gone. Like I don't know how many millions that would cost, but I'm sure it's something that the club could probably do, right?
Yeah, you make good points. Picking up a couple of points from chat. Adrian, yep, it's cheaped out, greyed out. Dean, I think it is Whiteweb's memory that is now a women's training ground, so that has gone. Yeah, as Jay Pearson just said, well said. This was a bittersweet thing for me, around the training ground, because they kind of show us something. They're like, this is the best in the world. Like, we are awesome. We're behind Tottenham. We have the best setup, and we're building something great. And I just kind of think, I wish we had a slightly better squad of players to train on that thing you just showed me. So
surely it comes. It will come. Like it's something we are building something organically. I don't think we don't have the sugar daddy. We don't have the oligarch. We don't have the nation state. So these things, it's frustrating. We obviously want to grow as quickly as possible, but I think I get the devil's advocate, HG, but I think we do need to be proud that we're doing things kind of the right way, and we make mistakes on the way, but we do things the right way, I think.
Yeah, and Brent, I can't agree with that more. The thing I can't get over to people, I really can't, because I'm an accountant, I'm not great with words, which is probably why I'm on a talking podcast. Like the entire ground, like, it's going to sound a bit weird for mainly male cast, mainly male listenership, but the flowers, the plants, like the setup, just weirdly how clean the paths were, like everything at that training ground. Like when I walked around it, I had my chest out. I was like, I'm a Spurs boy, and this is brilliant. And I felt proud, and I felt part of the club. And I was thinking, the players that come there, it's going to up their game as well. And if I was a player and it was 50-50, me and another club, and I saw the level of professionalism, and I'm sure other clubs have great staff as well. The staff we met were just insanely good. They were so passionate and so top notch. That could well convince me. And I guess one thing we're not seeing is, a lot of money has been invested in the training ground, like 100, 120, 30 million. Also, it's been there for 10 years, so 10, 12 million quid a year, that's not that much in reality. I mean, I probably can't even buy you a Winks a year, let's face it. And the incremental change, who knows? If we didn't have that level of facility that could get that level of player and that level of training and recuperation and regeneration, we could be talking, we're battling West Ham at the moment for 7th, rather than battling Arsenal. I mean, it's all hypothetical, of course, but
to be fair, I don't want to be devil's advocate anymore, right? I mean, 4 or 5 months ago, we had Nuno in charge. We weren't going anywhere We'd won 5 and lost 5, but most of the 5 wins had been a bit of a fluke. And now we are where we are because we made a change, and it was a good one, right? So, if you take Romero and you take Kulusevski and you take Bentancur and Conte, that's 4 quality pieces, absolute quality pieces. And we've got a couple of youngsters that might come back and do something special for us. You just don't know. But I'm much happier, we see what Man United are doing, where they're letting people go left, right, and centre, and it's the right thing because it wasn't working for them. We've done the same thing. We've changed things up, and I do think we've got better people in to make the decisions that need to be made. So I'm hopeful that we go out and do it. But it's just a shame that we spent 3-4 years making bad decisions and swapping things around, and it just didn't work.
We're kind of sorry.
No, so you go. We'll move on after this. You go.
We're kind of in the inverse position to Barcelona, right? Because they spent the last kind of 10 years, well, not quite 10 years, but a little while ago, winning a lot of trophies. But now they're in a position where they're in a billion debt and their stadium is crumbling. And their training facilities and new facilities, whilst it's very proud of itself, the quality, I bet, isn't anywhere. It certainly isn't anywhere near what we have, but it's old, right? It's very traditionalist. In a way, what we've done is we've put the foundation in place for the future of a great team. Whereas, think of it this way, and maybe this is just me because I'm weird. You can be a great team and win trophies, like Nottingham Forest did. But now they're in the Championship. A stadium doesn't go away. Brilliant training facilities don't go away. And they are what will develop new players. That doesn't go away, right? That's there forever. And, you can have great teams and great managers and win stuff, but that's temporary, that's short. If you want to consistently challenge and win, you need brilliant new facilities, brilliant training facilities, a brilliant stadium for revenue. You need all of those things. So, I mean, we could argue we should have done it the other way around, got the brilliant team, then built the brilliant facilities. And I do agree the team isn't good enough. And it is frustrating for this. And I'm sure people on Twitter will be, the 13-year-olds on Twitter with football player profile pictures will be saying, "Ha, what a trophy." It's like, okay, it's a joke. I get that. There is an element of truth in it. It would be nice if we started winning stuff, but it is very good. I do understand both sides of the argument, but it's a good very first step of the plan. Now we just have to start the stage of the plan where we start winning trophies as a football club.
Yeah, I think to me, Liverpool are the gold standard, right? City are being City and Chelsea are being Chelsea, but Liverpool, if you talk about doing it the right way, they are the gold standard. They got the manager in, and the manager changed things around, and they did. They kind of, yes, they improved the stadium a little bit, but it's not a revenue behemoth like ours was designed to be. It was just to get a few more seats in there. That's what we want to be doing. We want to do what Liverpool have done. And the question is, to do that, I think you need to have that manager. So if Conte commits to Spurs, then maybe, just maybe, but there's always going to be that nervousness. Unless he signs a new deal, there's always going to be this nervousness that Spurs are a, until Conte leaves kind of club, or until Kane leaves kind of club. That's a bit weird. I'm now so super close, but
yeah.
That's the situation that we're in. Right? We need that stability, and we need to be able to say, right, you are the man for us. We want to keep you around for the next 3, 4, whatever seasons. We want Spurs to be your home long term. Klopp always bought into Liverpool, and he always bought into what they were and where he wanted to bring them, and he knew it was going to take a few years to do it. And with Conte, because it's so short term, he's always been so short term as a manager. There is that nervousness that, to attract those players and to attract, if the money is similar, then okay, we can do it. But the manager is going to be the main thing. And so if he signs long term, then I think things look very good for Spurs. If he doesn't, we're kind of going for, we'll still be 18-month, 2-year projects, hoping that we sign good players on the way that, suddenly the next Poch comes along and he's got a squad of, a bloated squad of over 25 players, and you can say, right, they've all got various values. I'll get rid of those ones and create something. Because right now, it's like the squad itself seems to be very bare bones, and the management seems to be quite bare bones. And like we need to flesh that out, whether it's a long contract for players or a long contract for the manager or something that shows that we are ready to eat properly, you know?
Surely the direction long term has to come from someone who isn't a manager, right? It has to come from a director of football, right?
Yeah.
Basically, which maybe Paratici is, maybe he's the signings guy. I've read today that we're looking at getting another person in who does a similar job because Hitchin left. I mean, to me at least, right? Managers will come and go, right? There are very few who stay like Ferguson, like Wenger. You need someone at the top who's going to stay for that long, who will direct the philosophy and direct the team and will hire managers. That's what we need. I mean, Conte's brilliant, and if he stays for 15 years, that'd be spectacular, right?
Because I mean, you talk about. I mean, Man City have had the same guy in charge for a decade. The ex-Barca guy, and then
Who's the guy?
Something like that. Like there's lots of continents, and you've got obviously they were able with the money to go and get the best manager at the time, which was Guardiola. But yeah, like Spurs, does Paratici have that clout to continually do it? That's the thing. Like to me, I still think Conte is more important to the future of Spurs than Paratici is, even though I know that Paratici will make the decisions to get the right players in. It's surely more. You're more likely to get the right players in when you've got the manager on board already. Like I'm a big fan of the NFL, and I'm sitting there watching the draft last night, and I'm thinking, if I'm a player, do I want to go to a crappy team that already has a quarterback, or a crappy team, or a slightly better team that doesn't? Because the quarterback is the main thing that drives the success of an NFL team. So as much as the team might look worse, if you've got the right man in charge, you can see a pathway to something. And that is the questionable part. Like we've seen Levy is making most of the football decisions for a long time, financially at least. And he has had Hitchin at the club for 5 years before he got fired. And so you just hope that someone, whether it's a behind the scenes guy like Michael Edwards who doesn't want the publicity, or it's someone else that can come in and say, right, no, I'm going to be that guy. If Paratici can do it, then brilliant. But that's still a question for me. For the long-term success of the club, you need to have football people that know what they're doing. The infrastructure is brilliant, and you don't need football people for that, really. But now we need to make sure that the football people are right and that they stay and that they are committed to having their families in England or whatever it would be. Like not just living at the lodge if you can, like actually being, this is going to be my home for, I want it to be my home for the next half a decade. If we get there, then okay. But I'm just nervous that especially with Conte right now, you just don't know how committed he really is to Spurs. Yeah, he'll be here next season. I don't doubt that. But it needs to be longer than that to me for it to be a real to really matter to players who want to join Spurs.
Anything else?
Just to jump in, sorry. There's 107 people watching. Please hit that like button if you're enjoying what you're watching. Really helps us. Go ahead, Steve, and then we'll move on to birthdays and wrap up.
Cool. The only two things I was going to add to that is, I agree with everything you said, HG, as sadly as per usual. One thing. Went into Conte's bedroom on Wednesday. He wasn't there. Nothing seedy happened. But I can tell you he's got the only room in the entire training ground with its own minibar. So he's quite lucky.
What was in it? Did you open it? Did you have a look? What was his typical?
I went to open it and I got severely reprimanded. So I absolutely did not take photos in there and absolutely did not get severely bollocked for taking photos in there.
So they got into his bathroom, got naked, quick one. There wasn't time for that, I'm assuming.
Not quite. But something that was genuinely interesting from his room. He had installed and it must be 80-odd inch Tactics TV board. So like even when he's back, and his room's like a suite, so it's got like a bedroom, bathroom, living room, right? It's like a mini flat. So even when he's back in his suite, like at night trying to relax, he's still watching and talking about tactics. And the other thing I'll say, and I don't think this changes our transfer strategy, hopefully, going forward. But one thing the club are very invested in, and it came through just constantly, is the youth academy. All through the tour we heard academy, and what they're doing is they're changing quite a bit of the structure, even to the point of where the coaches sit. So they've decided the under-16s coach for the forwards sits next to, I'm guessing, under-18s is the next level up, and then under 21s, 23s, whatever, and they all sit next to each other in their coaching office. And the idea is they talk about handoff. So they want to be handing off the best in the class up to the next level, and by kind of osmosis of sitting next to somebody, for a year or a couple of years as a coach, you get to understand the player you're getting, and you can coach them better. It could be absolute management speak nonsense, but it kind of made sense to me. So they're really trying. They're really trying to. I've just seen Owen's point. I'm going to ignore that. They're really trying to push the academy. And Adrian's asked a couple of times. Apologies, Adrian. I've got absolutely no clue on naming rights. It's very.
Harry Winks, the English Iniesta. What is your point, Owen? Of course, he developed the English Iniesta. It's a brilliant facility. Sorry, Steve.
Somewhere. I don't even know where Caller lives, to be honest. Somewhere
up north. Lives up north. Yeah. It would be great to have this idea that everyone sits together and everyone knows what the other one's doing, and the manager has an idea of who's playing regularly for the under-23s. Like you'd assume that was already happening, but then I read in the Athletic in midweek that Troy Parrott's never spoken to Antonio Conte, and I find that it annoys me. Like I don't think Troy Parrott is going to be the new Harry Kane next year. But this idea of this is a young player at Spurs who clearly the club has had high hopes for. It's not, there aren't too many Spurs players that go out on loan consistently before this point, and yet here we are, and the manager may not even know he exists. Like I find that really, really strange. I know that Conte has other things to think about, but at some point there, whoever is in charge of making sure that the manager knows what's possible for next year. Like, does Paratici really know who Parrott is? Maybe he doesn't. Right? Maybe they're getting a few reports every now and again, but there's it's League One. Do you know what I mean? Like, there has to be some kind of personal interaction, and it annoys me that if I'm Troy Parrott and I'm thinking long term, I want to be a player for Spurs, which is what he says in the article. Like he wants to play for Spurs, to not have any relationship with the man who is the only one that can really make that happen frustrates me. Because Spurs should be on that. Like I read that Paratici is revamping the whole scouting structure, and we're going to have more scouts in the northwest and the northeast and all the rest of it. That's great, but watch the players we have, watch the people we can sign. Like youngsters are great, but they're still 3-4 years away from maybe what we want them to be. So I don't know. Like I hear it, but I kind of agree with you, Stevie. Like after a while, I'd be like, yeah, I know, but what about now?
And I won't lie, Caller's point. When you walk down the corridor, you look at, and it's cute. They have photos up of every academy plays broken through.
Yeah.
Not to be disparaging, there's not a lot of talent in there.
I mean, if you look at take the England youth teams, right? Like under 16s, under 17s, under 18s, there's usually a number of Spurs players around there, 2 or 3 of them at least. Even Walker Peters won the World Cup with under 20s or under 17s or whatever it was. So like he's been doing it. So we have had players that are in the best group for their age, but they haven't made that step. And, people can blame Pochettino for not loaning players out, but there needs to be this kind of joined up thinking. How we get there is irrelevant, but it hasn't happened and it needs to happen because, we see the comment from Adrian about we wait until the close season to assess these players. But surely we know now the type of players that we want to sign. So if you haven't looked at what you have already, that will affect what you may want to do later on. Like, we should know this. Like, even though Conte doesn't have the time to go and sit and watch these players by himself, the club should know kind of where we are and what might be possible. And if Conte says, you know what, right now he's going to get another year away, that's fine, great. But you just feel that, at least I feel, that there needs to be more joined up thinking as to where we are going and how we're going to get there, because otherwise we have this wonderful academy where we can win under 23 cups and all the rest of it, which we're not doing. But, we go out and do that. And if they don't make that jump to the first team, then, what? Like, Tanganga was, came, saw and left. And I don't think Tanganga is ever going to be that guy now. He might be a squad player, but I don't think he's going to be the first team regular that you see happen at Chelsea all the time now. That's where Spurs need to be and want to be. But even it just feels like, with that pathway, we haven't got it right yet. And it's quite obvious what Chelsea do. So maybe we can try and do something similar.
It's odd, isn't it? Because we were speaking to somebody else on Wednesday who said, a player in the under-16s. So they were strongly linked to the under-16s. They're one of Spurs' first team coaches at the time. And they said, a while back, probably 13 years ago, there were 5 or 6 under-16 players who were bang on. They were going to become Premier League players, top quality, probably in the Spurs first team. None of them have made it. One of the players who got loaned out to a number of clubs, who Spurs offered him to each of the clubs he got loaned to. From memory, the club were playing on Sunday. Norwich.
Mm-hmm. Kane, is it?
Kane.
He went to Norwich and Leicester on loan. Sorry.
Exactly. Nobody rated him. Like, he was not in the top league of the under-16s. Nobody rated him. But one thing this person did say to me is, as a slight aside, because I agree with everything HG has said, Kane doesn't have the natural talent. Kane has the natural energy and the passion to do better. So he said, when Kane's at a training ground, he gets a chauffeur in, chauffeur home. Not to be poncy, not to show off, not for anything, but then he can relax on the way in, relax on the way out. He does double training sessions most days. He's currently practicing his finishing, massive lull, so he thinks it's not good enough. So he is doing an extra training session every single day. He practices one-on-one finishing. So he doesn't think he's good enough. He thinks his talent has slipped down a bit. When they stay up at lodge, the other players, they go watch a film, they chill out, they go have dinner. Kane goes back. He goes to the gym. He goes, trains by himself on a football pitch. He gets one of the coaches and he trains one-on-one of them. So it's like, that's how he's pulled himself up to the other level, which I found quite interesting. But as an aside, everything HG has said, we should probably move on. But it's very odd. But we've got all the facilities, and we haven't quite done it, even the first team or the youth team. But fingers crossed, guys, we're coming.
Yeah,
you're right. It shows the mentality as well. That it's not just talent, the determination and mentality is just as important. So, just wary of time. Sorry to interrupt you, James. Just a quick one, guys. What do you think of this? You guys seen this? The new Air United kit. It's the Hummel kit. I mean, if you swap Jewson with Holston, that's what was it? 1987 kit, was it? 87.
Yeah, I think so. Around then, 86, 87, maybe the year before. I'm not too sure, but yeah, it's very, very, very similar.
Classic designs never get old.
Exactly.
I'm sure someone who hates Spurs will talk about how there are Jews on that kit. I don't know.
Who found that? Who found that in our little group?
I was doing around on Twitter. I saw it on Twitter, and I think John saw it and stuck it on the run sheet. It's the new Air United kit. That's proper Spurs. Transfer rumor quickly. I'll start with you, James. You may know from the Championship Manager. Is it called Championship Manager? Or is it
Football Manager 2022.
Okay, so here's a guy that sounds Brazilian. He might be Brazilian, but the surname looks quite Bavarian. So Grayson Bremer.
No.
HD, anything?
Yeah. He is Brazilian.
He's Brazilian. Yeah, Grayson's a very Brazilian name. Yeah.
He plays for Torino in Serie A, and appears to be a bit of a Romero clone. So he's quite aggressive, likes to win the ball as early as possible, and he's very highly rated. He's not left-footed, which is a bit of a downer, but if you want that kind of player, that kind of defender, he is wanted by a number of clubs. But we do have links to Italy that probably should be exploited. So yeah, it's a possible. I don't know how much money. I think I saw an article in the week that we'd offered. I mean, offers I don't believe, but it was that Torino were looking at something in the range of 50 million euros for him and their right wing back, a guy called Singo, an African kid called Singo. So like two for 50 million euros. Okay, if they're highly rated, yeah, why not? I mean, this right wing back is about 6'3", so he looks really ungainly when he's going down the wing. But he's obviously doing quite well for Torino. So yeah, he's Brazilian, but he's a centre back, but a right-footed one. So I don't really know where he'd be, but it would be another 24-year-old, 25-year-old, someone for the future of the club.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for that. Our man in Europe is got. So birthdays this Wednesday just gone. Martin Chivers, the legend, 77 years old, 376 games, 174 goals. He's top 5, I think. Is he top? Is it certainly top 10? He's up there, and he was doing the fitness classes during lockdown and in his garden. What a hero! Just true Tottenham through and through. Quick question, HG. How many England caps and goals has Martin Chivers got?
Like, I don't feel like I've ever seen Martin Chivers play for Spurs, apart from that, 72, 74, UEFA Cup final, whatever it was. Not that often, I suspect. I don't know, like 20 with like 4 goals. I really have no idea.
It's close, yeah. 24 caps, 13 goals.
Okay, that's pretty good. It's just weird because obviously back then, every team had an English goal scorer that scored a lot of goals because that's just how the league was right then. So yeah, he was obviously very, very good for Spurs, but maybe he was only maybe 4th or 5th choice for England and just never got the opportunities that maybe he should have.
Also, Josh Onoma, 25 years old yesterday, 31 games for Spurs, 1 goal, and also our rock at the back from Argentina, Christian Romero, 24th birthday yesterday. Also yesterday, this is a random one, on the 28th of April, 1937, John White, RIP, 183 league games, 40 goals, tragically died aged 27, struck by lightning.
Yeah.
That's a way to go.
No, and obviously part of the double winning side. I mean, he is a legend for Spurs just for that reason, but for things to go the way they did, I know that he's obviously his son Rob is pretty important. Like goes to all the games and is a well-known Spurs fan and has done a couple of books about it. But yeah, John White. I feel like when I first heard that story, I must have been, I don't know, younger than 10, and I remember thinking, what? Like that's I can't imagine the shock. It would have been awful, but. Absolute legend, John White. Really, yeah. I mean, he may have also played for Ayr United. Weirdly enough, I don't know if that's true, but for some reason, it's in my mind that he might have done.
I don't know if this is true or not. He died.
Wasn't it Cruz Hill? I thought it was Cruz Hill. Not that it really matters, but yeah.
And yeah, so. I will be hosting the pod on Sunday. Franco's got a day off because he's covering a North London derby for me because I'm going to be on a business trip in Sao Paulo. So do listen out for that pod. And the guys will be back. I'll probably be back on Monday as well with the YouTube. So do listen out for that. Please do give this video a like. It really does help us. Give us a subscribe as well. James, thanks for joining, mate.
Lovely to be on as ever. Great company, and you're welcome for having me as ever.
And I just saw, are you in a band? So I saw someone else in the chat.
Am I in a band? Yeah. I have a one-man band.
You don't are you joking or you are?
I have demo tapes recorded.
Okay.
Sincerely, I do, but it's just guitar. But
Does
no,
it- one-man band. I just picture you with like a drum on your back and like tambourines in your hand, and you go that in my head is one-man band.
It's just an acoustic guitar and electric guitar and vocals. So don't get too excited.
Okay. Well, stick it on YouTube, man. Love to hear your stuff.
Maybe.
Steve, thanks for joining, mate. I love your shirt, by the way. Didn't say at the beginning, but that is a Steve Diver shirt as you'll ever get.
Thank you, sir. Yes, it is. Haven't got a holiday coming up for 2 months, so it may have to go away a little bit. But
Poor you. You're always on holiday. Come on.
actually, I lie. I think I've got a holiday in 4 weeks. But
Of course you do. Of course you do. Obviously, mate. Great to see
thank
you.
you, can't wait to come back to London. Actually, be good to catch up.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'll see you end of June, beginning of July. I'll be over. We'll talk before then, obviously. But yeah, man. Looking forward to come back to your place and have some champagne on your roof again.
Piss it onto a certain ground next to us.
It's on to the Emirates. Oh, mate. Thanks for joining. Good chatting. HG, thanks for joining, mate.
Yeah, not a problem. Enjoyed it as always. And yeah, Antonio, do what we're saying. Do change something up. Play an attacking wing back. Do it. Because, yeah, I want to enjoy my Sunday this week. Come on, Antonio.
We'll do it. We're going to win. We're going to win. It's Leicester. Highest XG in 4 years was against them away. We'll do them at home. We will do them. Come on, believe. I know Caller's not here, but believe and come on, you Spurs.
Fine, mate. I left him a note on his pillow. It's fine. He's seen it.
Go on, you Spurs.
Come on.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.